8,000 years ago, an entire country drowned. Not a village, not a city, a country, bigger than Ireland, Belgium, and the Netherlands combined. Its people did not build pyramids, they did not write their names in stone. They built boats, wove nets, and hunted in forests that are now under 60 feet of seawater. Historians called them lost. DNA says otherwise. They are still here, walking your streets, sitting in your classroom, maybe looking back at you from your own mirror. Because when the North Sea swallowed their homeland, they did not die, they escaped. And the map of their existence was stored in a place no flood could erase, their chromosomes. This is the genetic ghost of Doggerland. Before the English Channel, before the North Sea, a vast plain connected Britain to mainland Europe. Scientists call it Doggerland. Fishermen first stumbled upon its remains when their nets dragged up antler tools and mammoth bones from the seabed, a message in a bottle from a lost world. For decades, we could only guess who lived there. Now, ancient DNA is pulling back the curtain. Not from bones alone, because very few human remains have been found on the drowned plain. Instead, researchers extract sedimentary ancient DNA from the mud itself. Pollen, plant fragments, even animal dung, all of it leaves genetic traces. By drilling 41 sediment cores from the North Sea floor, scientists have reconstructed the ecosystems of Doggerland, tree by tree, fish by fish. What they found shatters the old image of a barren tundra. Doggerland was a temperate woodland, oak, elm, hazel, rolling hills, winding river valleys, lagoons full of pike and perch. Its people hunted red deer and wild boar, fished from boats, and lived in small, mobile communities. This was not a bridge, it was a heartland, and it was massive. At its peak, Doggerland covered an area larger than Ireland, Belgium, and the Netherlands combined, roughly 100,000 square kilometers. Then, the ice melted. The end of the last ice age sent sea levels rising. For thousands of years, the ocean crept inland. Not a sudden wave, a slow, relentless flood. Every generation watched their world shrink. The hills became islands, the hunting grounds turned to marsh, the valleys filled with salt water. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Doggerlanders adapted. They moved inland, built new camps, shifted their diet toward more marine resources. But the sea kept coming. Around 8,150 years ago, a catastrophic event accelerated the disaster. The Storegga slide, a massive underwater landslide off the coast of Norway, triggered a tsunami that crashed into the remaining shores of Doggerland. Coastal settlements were swept away. But their survivors did not wait for the next wave. They had already made a decision that would change Europe forever. Sedimentary DNA tells a more complex story than simple annihilation. Some areas of Doggerland survived the tsunami. A freshwater lake sheltered by higher ground remained habitable for centuries. The last Doggerlanders did not drown in a single day. They were slow-motion refugees, watching their final refuge shrink season by season. When the last island finally slipped beneath the waves, roughly 7,000 years ago, the survivors had already left. They took their boats and paddled east towards Scandinavia, south towards the Low Countries, and west towards the rising coastline of Britain. They carried with them their tools, their stories, and their genes. So, what did these refugees look like? To answer that, geneticists turn not to Doggerland itself, but to the closest living relatives of its people, Mesolithic hunter-gatherers from Western Europe whose remains have been found in Britain, Denmark, and Germany. In 2018, researchers sequenced the genome of Cheddar Man, a 10,000-year-old skeleton from Somerset, England. His DNA is a close match to populations that once inhabited Doggerland. Cheddar Man had dark skin, dark curly hair, and striking blue eyes. That combination, Dark skin with blue eyes is almost never seen in living European populations. It's a genetic fossil from a vanished world. Light skin only became common in Northern Europe around 5,000 years ago, driven by the spread of agriculture and a vitamin D-poor diet. The original people of Northwestern Europe looked nothing like their descendants. Now, here's where the ghost appears. When Doggerland sunk, its survivors migrated northward into Scandinavia. Genetic studies of modern Scandinavian populations, such as the 2014 Nature study by Skoglund and colleagues, show clear signatures of closely related Mesolithic ancestry, including the genetic markers for dark skin and blue eyes that appear in Cheddar Man. Researchers call these surviving fragments ghost alleles, genetic markers that persist in modern populations long after the original group has been absorbed or disappeared as a distinct people. These related ghost alleles have been identified in people from the Netherlands, Denmark, southern Sweden, and eastern Britain, inferred from admixture models that trace Mesolithic ancestry into present-day genomes. They're not dominant, they're not the majority, but they are present, measurable, verifiable, and stubborn. The drowned country is gone. Its people are not. The most powerful evidence comes from 41 sediment cores drilled from the North Sea floor. In 2023 and 2024, teams of geologists and geneticists analyzed DNA trapped in ancient soil layers. They found traces of oak forests, hazel groves, and animal herds, confirming that Doggerland was a rich, habitable landscape for millennia. They also found something else: traces of human mitochondrial DNA in the sediment preserved in the mud of former campsites. Not enough to reconstruct entire genomes, but enough to confirm that people lived there continuously until the final flooding. This is not a single blockbuster study. It's a slow accumulation of evidence from multiple disciplines: archaeology, sedimentary DNA, population genetics, and oceanography. Each piece fits together like a puzzle. The picture that emerges is not one of sudden annihilation. It's a story of resilience, adaptation, and forced migration. So why does this matter to you? Because if you have Northern European ancestry, you are statistically likely to carry some of those related ghost alleles. Not a majority, not a single identifiable Doggerland gene, but fragments, scattered pieces of a lost people embedded in your own DNA. Your immune system, your eye color, your susceptibility to certain diseases, all of these are influenced by thousands of ancestral populations, including the hunter-gatherers who fled a drowning plane. This does not make you Doggerlandian, it does not give you a claim to a lost kingdom, but it does connect you to a real human story. A story about people who watched their world disappear and chose to survive. They left no monuments, no written records, no grand tombs. They left their bones, their tools, and, accidentally, their DNA. 8,000 years later, we're finally learning to read it. The next time you walk along a windy beach, listen past the waves. Below the water, a country sleeps, and in your blood, its people whisper. They are not heroes, they are not kings. They are refugees who refused to vanish. Doggerland is gone, but its ghost is still walking. And now, for the first time, it has a voice. Subscribe to GenealogyX, because the past isn't disappearing. It's hiding in your genes, and the tide has just uncovered it.